4, 3.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Brandon Gonez Show. It's your boy BG, and we have a whole lot of things to talk about, including, are Canadians miserable? Let me ask you that, because Canada has been named one of the most miserable countries in the world. Do you think that's true? We're gonna get into it, but what we do know is true is that Canadians are divided right now. No matter who you ask, people are on both ends of the spectrum and they're bickering with each other. So maybe, just maybe, the Olympics might bring us back together. Then we also have a one-on-one interview, an exclusive one-on-one interview with Canada's favorite sneakerhead, Trent Out Loud. And of course, we have our favorite doing too much moment. And this week, it's pretty good. Should I say that? Can I say that?
It's good. It's a good one.
All right, before we get into all of that, I do need to do a few things, like subscribing to this channel, tapping that notification bell, and make sure to follow us on all of our social media. Those details are in the description below. Okay, so is Canada a miserable country? Because according to a new study from the Fraser Institute, it found that Canada is the 6th most miserable country in the world. Are you surprised by that?
Are you miserable?
Am I miserable? No, I'm like the happiest guy in the world.
I'm surprised it's
Are
not.
you miserable?
This is not about me. I feel like it should be higher on the list.
Okay, so it's calculated based off of unemployment and inflation. There has been like a great resignation. I think people are still a little bit underemployed.
That's
People
what
have
they're
been
calling
looking
it.
for like raises, for example, and not necessarily companies are giving the raises to match the rate of inflation. Houses, homes have become so expensive.
Food,
Food,
shelter.
shelter.
Well,
I just said shelter, but okay, we can say it again. Gas prices are crazy right now everywhere. And then on top of that, the weather. And I know some of you guys love winter, but I'm sorry. I don't think there's anybody on this team that loves winter. So Chris, are you miserable?
You know, when you do mention all those things, I do start to get a little bit miserable, yeah. I do start to get a little sad.
Just saying, the numbers don't lie. I'm a numbers girl. The numbers don't lie.
And you know who else didn't lie? We asked people on the streets how they felt about it. Listen to what they had to say. Do you think Canadians are miserable?
No.
You know what's crazy? A study literally ranked us as one of being one of the most miserable people in the world.
I don't agree.
I think that we don't have freedom and we're miserable because of that. No.
Are you miserable right now?
No, I got a lot to be thankful for.
I think the whole idea of Canadians being really nice and kind and all that, it's changed quite a bit. I think we used to be, but I think we've become very intolerant.
Yeah.
It's shown that over the past 2 years.
Yeah.
Slowly, I think we're being very influenced by the United States.
Well, you're pretty happy.
I mean, I got a lot of things to be thankful for. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, heck no.
No.
Oh, no. No, because well, for me, because I get what I give. And I'm really cheery and happy.
I can tell.
Yes,
And you and me would be a vibe. If we went to the bar,
Yeah, we'd be a vibe.
we'd be a vibe. A
You
whole
got that
vibe.
right. Oh,
What
yeah.
do you like to drink?
Oh, well, right now I'm drinking Manhattans.
Ooh, you're a little bit fancy for me though. And then on top of all of that, can we also talk about the fact that the pandemic has been crazier here than in other parts of the world? And what I mean by crazier, I'm talking about the fact that we've been in lockdown
Forever, ever?
forever, ever?
Forever, ever.
Ever? So, I mean, yeah, you factor those things in. Yeah, I mean, I could understand why we're kind of near the top of the list.
The misery index is based on inflation and unemployment. That's what this is calculated off of, right? Like just to put things
Right.
in perspective.
But I think once you factor in all those other things, it's definitely easy to be miserable. But I also think it's very important for us to remember that we have a lot to be grateful for at the same time.
Yes.
Like when you really think about it, like as crazy as our politicians are, and we're gonna talk about them, like we still have we don't have the turmoil that you see like even down south. You know what I mean? We still got free healthcare. Like generally our streets are safe. Not everywhere, and we gotta fix that. But like you have opportunities to make it and all these things. There are a lot of bad, but there's still a lot of good, and I don't know if I would choose many other places to live other than this country right now. Do you think Canadians are miserable? Let us know in the comment section right now. And speaking of the pandemic, I feel like nonstop, there is just this tension out there in the streets. Like Canadians are divided. And I don't know if I've ever felt this type of division. I don't want to talk about, you know, the truckers' freedom convoy, but like that was a good example of how divided Canadians are and how nobody's listening to each other. Nobody's taking the time to understand why are people so passionate on either side of the spectrum. And oil's being put on these flames by some of our political leaders. Literally, our leaders are supposed to be people who are supposed to keep us safe, sane, and level-headed, right? And we're supposed to respect them. I'm kind of feeling like our politicians are using the division for their own political advantages. Leaders on each political spectrum and how they're talking and how they talk about people who they don't agree with. It's almost like people are being demonized, and you're supposed to look at them as less human. And then if you do support this particular leader, then they're trying to ingrain in your head that you're better than people who you don't agree with. And then how does that play out in society? Well, all you see is people literally going at it at each other. And now we're seeing arguments, we're seeing fights in the streets. We're seeing signs of like, F this, F that, F the prime minister, F Ford, all of this. I never knew this was normal. Even the comment sections for our own show, like, it's so divisive. People are just saying, F this, you're a B, you're Uncle Tom, you're blah, blah, blah. Like, okay, like, it's like, oh my, like, where is the space
It's a lot of anger. It's a lot of anger in the audience.
There's so much anger. I feel like I'm getting a little bit angry, you know, but I'm so passionate about this because I don't know what happened to kind Canadians. Were we ever kind?
I do think that we are, as a population, kind people, but I also think it's like the pressure cooker effect, right? Like, how much can people take before they start to, like, lose it?
And that's exactly what people said when we talked to them on the streets, too. Take a listen. We're so divided. Canadians are divided.
It's a divided society right now. Like,
Have
that's
you ever
exactly
seen it this divided before?
No, never.
But I just feel like there's so much arguments. Like, people are on edge.
Oh yeah. Everyone's at each other's throats, and vaccinated is blaming unvaccinated, unvaccinated is blaming vaccinated.
You know what? When you take a look at our politicians, there's a huge division there. It doesn't matter who you vote for. There's always going to be issues. But I think that Canada now is showing a side of them that is pretty much embarrassing. We have all kinds of liberties in this country, and just because you're against putting on a piece of paper over your face and saying that you don't have freedom is absolutely ridiculous.
I don't know why so many people don't respect what we have here to be worried about getting a needle. I had polio shots and everything. I went to school with a girl who had polio, and I was a teacher, and you would not get into my classroom unless you had your needles. Oh, and then there's social media. That's a lot of the trouble of today. The news has traveled too quickly, too suddenly, and half of it's wrong. And nobody wants to believe that they are wrong.
Do you think the Olympics are going to bring us all together?
No.
It's hard to say.
No, I don't even. I think we all should have just stayed home to teach the Chinese people a lesson about human rights. Not about their sports, about human rights. Show them that, you know what, we're not tolerating this crap.
But if they win, maybe all Canadians might forget about their sorrows for a little bit, and we might all hug for a second.
The little bit, that's the operative word. It's not going to last long, because then some new grievance will come.
I guess I'm happy we're having this conversation because, as we know, the Olympics are taking place right now, and technically, usually when the Olympics are on, it brings a country together. And I'm wondering, do you think the Olympics might be able to help mend some of these wounds and bring us together? Do you remember when Canada won gold in hockey back for the Vancouver Olympics? And how, like, literally, like, I mean, you're smiling right now because how, like, everybody across the nation was smiling, and we were all so proud, and we were singing the national anthem.
It's that kind of like brotherhood, sisterhood kind of.
And in that moment, like, you don't look at each other as different political views, or you're vaccinated and I'm unvaccinated. You know what I mean? You just look at each other as like Canadian, and it puts us all on the same team. Maybe that could help the situation.
We're seeing a diplomatic boycott already of these games, right? And then we're seeing people protesting, saying that people shouldn't be watching the Olympics, right? There's this whole human rights violation thing because the Olympics are in Beijing. So I don't know, like, people are already divided over this.
We need a Tessa Virtue Scott Moyer moment that brings us all together. An Andre DeGrasse moment. So maybe it will happen. Listen, do you think the Olympics will be able to bring us together and we can become one again? Let me know in the comments. Or if you don't think it will happen, also let us know in the comments. But we are gonna cheer you up right now because we do have a really, really cool interview. Actually, I'm gonna call it a great interview this week with the one and only Trent Out Loud. Listen to this. He is known for the amazing brand Exclucity.
Kicks on kicks on kicks.
Kicks on kicks on kicks. Listen, this guy is a Black entrepreneur who has reached pinnacles in his career, making millions. He's also reached extreme lows where he's literally almost lost his business. Now, he has 2 books out, How Sneakers Saved My Life and How Sneakers Ruined My Life. We get into it with him. Let's bring him in. Trent Out Loud. Oh my
Yes,
gosh,
sir.
you have so many titles. CEO of Exclucity, okay? Author,
Yes.
entrepreneur,
Yes.
businessman,
Yes.
content creator, influencer. Like, there's so many things.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming on the BG Show.
Thank you for having me, man. It's a
I'm
pleasure.
so happy that you're joining us here at the beautiful Bisha Hotel.
Yes.
I mean, this is definitely the vibe we want to have this conversation.
My favorite hotel in Toronto. When I heard that we're having it here, I was very happy. I'm booked. I'm staying upstairs on the 6th floor.
Yeah. Well, I'm kind of like, I'm excited to talk to you because I feel like I'm
Yeah.
talking to somebody who has made such an impact for hip hop culture in this country. Like, you are one of
you.
like the sneaker gods. Seriously, sneaker culture should bow down to you.
Well, that's a title I don't know if I want to take
Now
on.
you
If
blushing,
you say it, if you want to say it, that's okay. I won't put that on me. But yeah, I played a pretty big hand in forming sneaker culture especially in Montreal and definitely like in the East Coast in Canada. So thank you. Yes.
You've been through a life's roller coaster. Like, you've literally been highs of highs.
Yes.
When I'm talking about highs of highs, like pinnacle of career, making
Yes.
a ton of money.
Yes.
I don't know if I'm allowed to ask you this, but like
Yeah.
at the height, like how much money were you bringing in?
A lot in the millions.
No, that's important to say.
Yeah, no, it's important to say because I talk about it in the book about losing
Millions
of
as
dollars.
well.
So I have to talk about making millions. to lose it, yes.
100%. And for those who don't know, your books are called How Sneakers Saved My Life and How Sneakers Ruined My Life.
Yes.
So let's talk about the first one, How Sneakers Saved My Life.
Yeah.
And your upbringing resonates with a lot of people. What is the one thing that you remember in your upbringing that you hold on to as motivation?
It's really my mom. And she said when she came home from the hospital, she always saw me. She had a dream of seeing me on a billboard one day.
Yeah.
And she said she never thought about that with my sister. So she's always been instilling this confidence in me, like, Trent, you're going to be great, you're going to be amazing, whatever. And I've just, kept that kind of, I guess, close to my heart a little bit, But we didn't grow up with much, My
Right.
mom was a nurse. She worked from 3 to 11. My dad worked 2 jobs. He worked the night shift. So I was raised by my sister, who's 6 years older than me, who had no clue how to raise me at that time. So I didn't have access. Like, there's no entrepreneurs in my family. Like, my parents did what they could do, but that was to bring me out of LaSalle.
Yeah. You have an interesting relationship with each of your parents.
Yes.
Very different.
Yes.
How you feel towards your mom compared to how you feel towards your dad.
Yes. Yeah.
You're smiling though.
So yes, I have a challenging relationship with my father,
Yeah.
even now as an adult. My father growing up was an authoritative father. And I didn't realize at that age that, he was only doing what he could do with the tools that he had. Growing up in Jamaica, growing up poor, not having his father around, he didn't have the tools, I think, to like sit down and have a talk with me. It was do as I say, not as I do. You're Jamaican, you know how it is, right? He was, physically and verbally abusive towards my mother.
Yeah.
And towards me. We look at it as just getting spanking, but when you think about it, it's actually abuse, right? And I rebelled against that as a kid growing up,
How do you think that affected you in terms of your psyche?
I think it drove me.
Right.
I think even now, today, like putting out my books or doing anything, I think it's to try to like prove my dad wrong. I love him, we were super close still, but I always feel like I was never like good enough in his eyes. And he thought, I always try to look at things in both perspectives, like he thought he was pushing me.
Yeah.
I thought he didn't think I was good enough. Even today, so I feel like I try to like push and do everything and show him that I'm good enough to
There's
be
a
in
bit
his
of a
eyes.
chip on your shoulder.
Yeah, a big chip actually.
I'm listening to it and I almost feel sad, but I also feel like it was low-key a little bit of a blessing for you because
Exactly.
it's a motivation thing.
Exactly. And he's the same way today. Like I'll bring him to like store openings and he's like, why are you opening another store?
Yeah.
Like, why are you doing this?
Yeah.
And like I gave him my books. I sent it, before I even printed them, I sent it to him in an email, just like the Word format, my mom, my sister, and I said, hey dad, I'm talking about some stuff in here. And let me know what you think and we could talk about it and maybe I could pull some stuff back. He's never even answered me. And I gave him, I reprinted the books, I gave him like the advanced copies of the book, and till this day, he's never even said anything to me about the books. The reason why we're still close today is that as much as some people may look and like, oh, you're shitting on your dad in the book, I think I still actually give my dad a lot of props. I'm really just being real in the book. At the end of the day, there's some fathers who are not even there.
Right.
Yeah, he may have cheated on my mom, he may be abusive to my mom, which is completely wrong, and I'm still upset with him about that today. But outside of that, I feel like my father stayed in the house. He didn't leave, he didn't have any other kids that we know of yet today.
Shade.
He says that though, he says that, he goes, I don't have any other kids that I know of. But so, I think it's important for us as first generation Canadians to tell our story about our upbringing, about our parents, and to applaud the fathers who stayed in the house and stayed there and just had the tools that they had.
It's crazy because, you know, throughout the book you talk about, you know, you were hustling. The trouble you got in like could have landed you, like you could have gone away for a long time.
Yeah, I could have not been sitting here with you today, you know? So when I was young, I started like little like businesses like burning CDs and selling them, and like Trent quality records, I called it, you know, and like cutting lawns and doing grass. And then my dad moved us out of LaSalle, and I moved back to LaSalle because I had friends that were out there, and you know, they were hustling, they were selling drugs, let's call it what it is. Right? And
I was leaving that tidbit for the book, but go ahead,
No, but hard drugs, right? Like they were selling crack. I was, you know, dabbling in selling weed, which is legal now, so it's all right to talk about. So but I was right close. I was there.
But can we talk about how close?
So we'll talk about the first time that I got arrested.
Okay.
Yeah. So we were with my friends in LaSalle, and we were on Airlie, and we were leaving the house, and I was going to the front door, and then they were like, "No, let's go to the back door." And I'm like, "Why are we going to the back door?" It's like, "Got a car outside." I'm like, "None of you fools have money to buy a car, and nobody has a license. Like, what are we doing?" You know. Make a long story short, the cops pulled up on us. We tried to run away, running through the park. We thought we were running away from the cops, but they had the whole park surrounded. And the cops were waiting for me at the Dairy Queen, and there was 2 or 3 cop cars.
What was going through your mind?
Yeah. Well, going through my mind, I thought like, yo, shit, I'm not gonna get arrested. I'm getting away. And as I pulled around the corner, there was, I think 2 cop cars, 4 police officers with their guns out. I had my cell phone in my hand, and they were yelling, "Drop your weapon, drop your weapon." And when some shit like that happens, especially for a suburb kid, I was like, literally, like everything just stopped in literally slow motion. When they say like your life flashed before your eyes, like it's like slow mo.
Yeah.
And I couldn't figure out, I'm like, what weapon? And I just dropped, and I just, you know, luckily no shots were fired or whatever, but it was the first time I got arrested. You know, but like I talk about in the book, I have a gun charge. I had a gun charge. I beat the case. But yeah, I got myself into some shit for 2 or 3 years. But to me, it's what made me who I am today. And that story, I hope, resonates with people that think that, you know, just because you get arrested or because you did a lot of stupid things as a kid, that doesn't dictate your future or what you can or cannot be, you know?
Do you have a favorite sneaker?
So my favorite Jordan is the Retro 3.
Okay.
It's Michael Jordan's favorite Jordan too. And if you think about it, that is the shoe that birthed sneaker culture. So to me, that's the most important shoe. Yeah, that and the Foamposite. The Foamposite is what chapter 4 is really all about. That's the most important shoe to Trent, because that Foamposite is what helped me turn Exclucity from a store into a brand.
So let's talk about that.
Okay.
You know, as people read the book, they're gonna find about your hustler mentality and all the stuff that you did. How did you find the courage to make that transition to say like, okay,
so we went from LaSalle. Okay, I came back home and I'm like, okay, what am I gonna do? I tried to get a normal job. I worked at Merck Frost as a janitor. Then I'm like, no, I have to go back and be entrepreneurial. I'll just have to not do illegal things.
Yeah.
You know, and then I started out selling cars. I tried to have a construction company. I was modeling. Then I was doing some acting. And then fast forward to long tees and do-rags, driving down to New York, Canal Street, buying long tees and do-rags for $2.50 and selling them out the trunk of my car for $20. That part we're not going to give away because I've said that story a million times. It's in the book, get it? So if we fast forward to getting a Nike account and Adidas or whatever, and this Galaxy Foamposite is arguably the biggest release in sneaker history. It was in 2012, and when the shoe came out for All-Star, Florida had to call in the National Guard. I had been bugging Nike for about a year to bring in Foamposites, and they didn't want to bring it in, but I was very adamant about bringing Foamposites into Canada. And they're like, all right, Trent, you really feel like you could sell Foamposites? I'm like, yeah. It's like, okay, we're gonna bring you up this Galaxy Foamposite. So when I saw what was happening in New York and LA, and people were lining up for this Foamposite, and they were saying that there was maybe 1,000 or to 2,000 pairs in the entire world. So I took that opportunity to make it into a brand moment. So I got like an astronaut, we designed a whole store, we did a bunch of cool things. And then when I sent it to Nike, they're like, that was really cool that you turned that into just a transactional, from a transactional moment to an entrepreneurial moment. And I was like, all right, bet, cool. Literally any time a shoe had any sort of theme to it, we brought that theme to the store. And that's when I think Exclucity transitioned from just a store into a brand. And I think young entrepreneurs need to understand the difference between having a company and having a brand.
What I want to know is, from you, when was that moment that you realized sneakers saved your life?
I think it was probably the move to Toronto. When I moved to Toronto and realized that this kid from Jamaican immigrants, from a father that didn't have tools, from a mother that just, loved her son so much and believed so much in him. I have a store on Queen West. Like, I am 2 blocks away from Zara. When I was in the music industry, I remember coming to Toronto. Toronto was the biggest thing in the world to me.
Oh my gosh.
It was crazy.
Yeah, I mean, your moment in the music industry, it was quite interesting. You
exactly.
kind of had an interaction with somebody. Do you want to talk about that story?
Shout out to Drake.
Yeah.
I'm not saying I could have done something, but I had an opportunity to have done something, and I was working with other artists at the time.
Right?
Yeah.
And you got his number?
Yeah, I had his number. We exchanged numbers, and I didn't call him.
Seize on every opportunity you have in life.
I didn't call him, yeah. And then he came back to one of our video shoots to pay we had the same, it was RT, production company.
Yeah.
And I was just like, yo, what's up? And that's when he was doing the song with Replacement Girl with Trey Songz. But I was so focused, I would have loved to manage him and broke him, but I was working with an artist that I thought had that at the time and unfortunately didn't.
I'm going to call you a disruptor because you were disrupting an industry.
For sure.
And there are some big heavyweights in the sneaker industry that were taking notice of what you were doing.
Yes. Yeah.
And I wouldn't say they were liking what you were doing a lot.
Exactly. And it's funny, right? Because they liked me when I was doing that in Montreal and I was being a disruptor.
Yeah.
And that's why they gave me the accounts that they gave me. But then when I was disrupting their business, that's when they didn't like it. So yeah, you're talking about when Kanye West made the shift from Nike to Adidas.
Yes.
And he changed. You know what? That's doing a disservice. Kanye West flipped the entire sneaker industry upside down on its ass.
Yeah.
When Kanye West came out with his Adidas shoe, I was in New York at All Star, and I was like, whew, I feel something different than when he wore the Ultra Boost, and he just changed everything. We were lucky to have an Adidas account at the time, so we had the Yeezys, then we had the Ultra Boost, we had the NMD. I talked about this in the book. As quick as Adidas went up, Adidas went back down.
Yeah.
And what a lot of people don't know is that we got a book 9 months in advance. So those trajectories were doing great. Tubular, NMD, I had millions of dollars booked. And when it came crashing down and Adidas looked, I was like, okay, you're gonna still take them even though they're going down. I'm like, hey, I was just in Paris for Fashion Week.
Yeah.
I saw all of this shit that you're about to send me on sale. I don't want it. And they're like, well, no, you gotta take it. I'm like, no.
Talk about the effect that had on your business.
Yeah, it took me 5 years to recover from it. I'm only now recovering from it. When I talk about this, I promise myself to preface it with saying, at the end of the day, it's my business.
Yeah.
Adidas and Nike or any supplier can't make you book anything. I made these calls to book these things and take these risks and open these stores. But when you're a multi-billion-dollar brand, and when you have an independent retailer that's coming to you and they're saying, hey, we're partnering up in the good times and everything is great, and now with the bad times and the downturn, Adidas just left me in the wind.
Because at this point, you had how many stores open?
We were about to open Vancouver. I had 10 leases signed, close to 100 employees at the time. I was in debt to Adidas for like $1.5 million, and they're like, it's all due like now.
Yeah.
And that had another $500,000 shipping. I was like, I need some help.
Yeah.
And they're like, sorry, we can't. And it really just put me into a downward spiral. I took out loans, I had to remortgage my house, and I couldn't deal with it. I didn't know how to deal with it. I didn't have the tools to deal with it. I started trying to go to therapy. It didn't work. And I turned to like alcohol and partying just to kind of like numb the pain, because I went from having 10 stores to, I needed an intervention. I had 2 consultants have an intervention. It's like, Trent, If you don't close stores now, you're gonna be bankrupt in 6 months. So at the end of it all, like right before COVID, we had closed down 6 stores. I know I had left therapy and I was out on my own and I was drinking every day and I didn't know how to deal with myself and deal with my reality. But I don't think if I had therapy even to begin with, I don't know what had happened.
And as things were going down on this roller coaster, some of the people who were with you for along that ride also left.
Yeah.
Chloe and Dan, if I'm not mistaken. That must have been hard.
Yeah. Chloe and Dan were instrumental in helping me build Exclucity. They were there for my first store. And everything I was going through, they were going through.
Yeah. Did you feel betrayed?
I feel like they made the best decision for them. And I'm not mad at them for it. I don't feel like they left me stranded.
Right.
I don't feel that.
You talked about this crazy low as you were going down and you were trying to find something to latch onto to make you feel better.
Yeah.
And nothing was making you feel better.
At all. Nothing. Alcohol, dating, traveling.
Because you were seeing girl every single night.
I think I got lost in trying to get lost.
As you went down, as the pandemic started,
yes,
that roller coaster started to go right back up.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's where we're gonna pick up more in book 3.
Yeah.
But it was really the pandemic that made me realize everything that I was doing and how wrong it is of what I was doing and my ways. I used the pandemic and I used the opportunity to look at Trent, and it totally changed everything.
What advice do you have for anybody watching this who's kind of on that journey of trying to find their passion?
I think that your passion shouldn't be something that you should search that much for. And Jay-Z said this, like, the goal shouldn't be to be famous. The goal should be to find what you're passionate about that and excel in that.
Trent, I'm gonna tell everybody they gotta read the books.
Thank you.
They gotta read the books.
Thank you.
Remind folks where they can get them.
It's available, How Sneakers Saved My Life is available now on Amazon. And I don't know if you know this, but How Sneakers Ruined My Life is not officially out yet. And I wasn't sure exactly when I was gonna release it. And I was gonna release it on my first interview. So, because of your show, February 6th, 2022, I am releasing How Sneakers Ruined My Life, and it will be available on Amazon Prime.
And you have to read it. Like, it is
Thank you.
A game changer.
Before we end the interview,
Yes.
I want to say one thing.
Tell me.
I am Team Oxtail.
Yo!
Dwight! I'm Team Oxtail.
Thank God.
Yeah.
Thank God. And on that note,
Yeah.
we need a cup of Hennessy.
Yeah,
okay,
right?
we need a cheers.
Yes.
Trent Out Loud, thanks so much for coming on
Thank
the
you,
BG
brother.
show.
Thank you. Appreciate it, brother. Thank you.
Crazy story, eh?
Yeah, and there's so much that people can learn from his story, right?
There's a lot.
There's a lot. You never really know what someone's going through on the surface, right? Like, people go through a lot. Anyhow, go check out his book. Go buy his book. It's a great read. All right, right now for one of your guys' favorite moments, doing too much. And this week, we're looking at a new professional sport. You probably did it as a kid. Should you guys just show it what it is? Dev, show him how you really feel. Oh my God. It's professional pillow fighting. Yeah, you heard it. So just take a look at it.
Step round there for your captain, back my blade, let him have it. Then see me in the field, they...
Get him off.
I think she's already professional.
Which ironically, if you take a look at the videos, the women are much better than the men.
That's what I was saying.
I'm saying, I don't mean to be biased, but we've been doing this at slumber parties our whole lives. So
Listen, we're gonna call it a timeout on that
because we're doing too much.
I'm gonna wrap this up. So just want to let you guys know, thank you so much again for watching this episode. And a reminder to make sure you subscribe to our channel, tap that notification bell, and follow us on all of our social media. Some more great news you can use stories coming out this week. So make sure to keep it locked on this channel. And we'll see you again next week for a new episode of The BG Show. We love you for watching. Hey BG Squad, thanks so much for checking out our channel. And listen to this, we have more great content for you, like this video right here and this video right here. By the way, don't forget to subscribe to this channel right now and tap that notification bell.